I was a little bit like dissatisfied and disappointed with my experience and the fact that I couldn't get into those undergrad schools.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the Gentle Art of Crushing It show, where we focus on learning and sharing with our listeners all there is to know about how to create success in our lives. This show stands on the shoulders of giants. Our mission is to empower and inspire our listeners to create the life of their dreams whilst having a blast in the process. Let's celebrate life together. Welcome to the show.
Well, hello, and thank you for joining us on another episode of The Gentle Art of Crushing It. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing my friend and also a host of The Gentle Art of Crushing It, Marta Cieslak. Am I pronouncing your last name properly?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So now, before we actually just even get started on my first question, I'd love to have you share with our audience just basically your focus of your show. So, yeah, what's your main focus of your show in particular on the Gentle Art of Crushing It?
So the general focus of my episodes specifically are really focused on women and business, entrepreneurship, and real estate. So really highlighting and uplifting and empowering those stories and hoping to share those stories more broadly and more widely. So to the extent that I can really spotlight women in business and entrepreneurship, that is my ultimate goal. And within real estate, I'm trying to bring in actually a hospitality lens. So because I'm interested in hospitality, I want to talk to people that are currently in it. And so I'll be bringing in a lot of folks that are within the hospitality sector of real estate and doing really cool stuff with like resort type hospitality assets, if you will.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful, and it sounds like a lot of fun. And it's really cool to have a show that's, focused, 100% on women because, we just need to hear more success stories. We know that there's plenty of, super successful women out there in real estate, and just having more exposure to y'all, is a beautiful thing. And I think that a big part of the reason for this show is to empower other people to believe in themselves that they can, create the life of their dreams. And so that's obviously, just perfect. So I really love it. And I love your show. And I just think that you're amazing. So with that being said, please tell us just a little bit about yourself, about your background, where and how you found success as you define it, and maybe share something with us that most people wouldn't know.
Sure. Well, something. I'll share something that most people wouldn't know first. So I was actually born in Poland and grew up there for the beginning part of my life, and came over to the U.S. when I was 8 years old, and grew up in New York. And so when people ask me, where are you from? I kind of always freeze like a deer in headlights because I don't know what to say. So that's like a little bit of a fun fact about me. But I live in Oakland, California now. So I kept moving out west and west and west as the years went on. And my mom was like, nice. When are you going to stop going west? But I went to grad school for my master's in public health. Initially wanted to go into medicine, but I knew I didn't want to treat individuals. I wanted to have a broader impact that affects populations and not just one individual person. And so I went into public health, and today my day job is working for a health plan and doing strategy for them, and really focusing on strategies that are outside of the traditional clinical function. So when you think about healthcare, you usually think about going to the doctor, getting treated for whatever it is that you're going in for. And what I'm more focused on is around the social determinants of health. So what do we eat? Where do we live? What do our neighborhoods look like? What do our communities look like? And how do all the factors that surround us impact our health? And are certain communities at a more advantage than others with that respect? And so trying to elevate the communities that are not, that are experiencing disadvantages, essentially, right? To make sure that if we lift those communities up, then we know that those differences and those changes are going to impact health positively, right, for everyone. And so that's sort of my focus and where I'm at today, my day job. And about a couple years ago, when I was on maternity leave, I started getting into real estate and real estate investing. And this is kind of where I ended up here today, is meeting this great investor circle and group, and now really focusing on how can I get into the hospitality industry, which is sort of like a way to intersect my day job and my passion for real estate. So obviously the real estate part would be the resort, the hotel, the whatever it is, intersecting that with like an experiential aspect, meaning like how can we make this like a true like health oriented and focused resort for families to come to and do self-care activities, spend time with their families, be outdoors, right? So having that like full 360 experience and being able to really take care of themselves.
Yeah, no, that's great. I love it. And I think sort of your focus in your day job on like holistic healing, I don't even know if that's the right word, but not just getting well through medications, right, or seeing the doctor all the time, but what can we be doing to improve our health so that we can, use less medications, for example. It fits perfectly with your hospitality idea, and it's sort of really, really, needed or necessary in the U.S. at least, because most, sort of like nursing homes, and again, not again, but I apologize if this is not necessarily your niche. It's kind of what I think I'm hearing, but it seems like they are there, their families don't visit a lot, and they aren't really set up to, sort of have like more family experience because they have their room, they can go out, and it seems like a disruptor sort of idea. So, but am I kind of in the right realm with, we're talking about kind of nursing homes sort of, or nursing facilities?
Sort of. It actually, so on the hospitality side of things for me is more of a concept around, I want to use the word resort because I think it kind of encompasses what I'm trying to do. But not the traditional sense of a resort, meaning like I go there with my family to have an experience there. I can be outdoors, like outdoors, hiking, biking, doing physical activities, but also being able to do like self-care activities and focus on mental health. And, if you go there with your kids, can you maybe get a couple hours to yourself as parents, right, while your child is being taken care of, right? So that's a form of also mental health, right? You need some time for yourself. And I, as parents of young kids, like we know that there's very little time for self-care. Even like getting 5 minutes to think sometimes is like a difficulty. And so this being really like a place to get away, to enjoy your family, at the same time being able to satisfy that like self-care need that everyone has, frankly, right? So that's sort of what I mean when I say incorporating like just like really basic things, right? When you think about being outdoors, being physical, exercising, being surrounded by like-minded people, it all seems very basic, but I think there's not a lot of opportunities to sort of get that experience these days, right? Like we tend to do things individually and not focus as much on the community. And so I want to like bring that concept back within like a hospitality experience.
Okay, yeah, I love it. I was definitely like way off, and I love the idea because you can start to see how, for example, if you had it set in Big Sur, you could go down to the ocean, you could do some hiking, you could have a spa, massage, everything that you eat there is healthy. Maybe even breakout sessions on how to whatever bond or further your relationship in the family unit, or there's all kinds of opportunity and huge potential for that. And it sounds like a lot of fun, plus who knows, mountain biking or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. And I'm sort of, it's a concept that really resonates with me because I'm essentially the avatar that I'm building for. And so it's nice to kind of understand the pain points of the customer that I'm hopefully going to be designing for. So.
Yeah, it's brilliant. I think it's definitely needed. I think, trips to sort of like amusement parks or Disneyland, right? For example, with the family, would be fun. That's not really my cup of tea, but it can be fun, right? But it's also just very like, it's not peaceful. It's not what you're thinking of peaceful or getting like centered and calmness and connected. Like I think of, big trees up north, Northern California, and spending time with your family, campfire type of, or hiking or whatever. But I think it's definitely needed. And families sort of, we're really distracted, and I think that we need help, connecting. Like our cell phones, I'm the first one to admit I'm a screen addict, and it's something that, I'm working on, right? And it's hard to, I have this beautiful 9-month-old baby, Judah, son, and he'll be right in front of me and I'm looking at the phone. It's like, they don't compare, right? So put down the phone and hold this little guy and, smell him and smooch him. And
the phones really scare me. And that's sort of the idea behind this concept is like, a getaway where you don't have to think about your phone because you're so distracted by all this other beauty and activities and things to do that you don't even have time to think about your phone, right? And to your point, Disneyland does not sound fun to me. And we are starting to have conversations with our family because our kids are getting a little older. Like, when are we going to do this? And I'm like, very not ready for that. Like, I am only doing it for my kids.
Same here,
Not for, don't want to be there, but.
Same here. And I think, I hear you. I was going to say, you touched on mental health, and this is like, I think it's beautiful. It should be included. And we all could use, like, this is my personal opinion, we could all use some help there, right? So, that's awesome. Let me ask you this. Please share with us one of your, most favorite successes that you either solely created or were a part of. Could be anything.
Good question. Let's see. So I did my first investment deal last year. So when I got into real estate and started learning about it in 2020, all I was doing really was absorbing knowledge, right, for about a year or so before I could take the leap to say, okay, now I have to take some action because now I need to put what I've learned into play. And so I had at the time a really great connection, an agent who was almost more like a coach than an agent because he really broke it down for me really well to the point where I felt confident and was ready to make that investment. And so that I consider a success because, even he was like, some people never take action. Some people, it takes 5-10 years for them to take action. So, I took the leap, and with his support, with his help, and a couple of other investors who were by my side, I was able to essentially take the lead on this first investment. And it was scary at the time. And after it was all said and done, I was like, oh, wait, that was it, So it's really, taking action is definitely a powerful thing, because you learn so much through the process. And then at the end, you're like, oh, why was I afraid of this? This is nothing. So yeah, I guess I would just advise, just take action and see what happens, and take some risk, and obviously calculated risk, but yeah, you'll learn a ton along the way. So.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. It makes me think of something that Jay Scott says, and I'm paraphrasing it, but he sees people who, will buy one real estate investment and they never stayed there. It's something like everyone that he has met who's bought one real estate investment, they end up over time buying multiple. But, obviously the people who don't even get started are still, stuck there. And so, also, I think I heard this from Brandon Turner, but I agree with this as well. And we have a friend who invests in real estate, and this is how he does it, is it's all through properties that are on the market. But I think do your research, analyze it, and if you go with your first property is on the market, then that's awesome. It's wonderful that you're getting started, and it's like one of the easiest ways to buy real estate, but also like for me it was really scary. And so yeah, however it has to look, I think get started, so and take action, like what you said. This is so key and so important.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love that. What would you say is one of the most valuable lessons you learned from that experience?
Gosh, so many. I feel like surround yourself with people that know more than you. That I think is my number one lesson. And people that have done it before, that have experienced it before, and can guide you and lead you along the way. One of my co-investors in this first deal was my husband's cousin, actually. And he, put down the capital, and he was like, yeah, you own this. Because he really knew that I wanted to understand investing, understand real estate. And he's done plenty of deals before, but he's like, no, this is all you, right? You lead this, you take this on. We'll check in every so often, and we'll make sure we're on the right track. But he really put the faith and the trust in me to take it upon myself to drive it. And so he was like the perfect mentor also along the way. So I would just say, have people more experienced than you, have mentors along the way, so that you can really learn from within your first experience. Yeah,
no, I agree. I think it's key. It's incredibly important. And I want to just kind of say that, always do your due diligence and be careful with real estate gurus. But if you're going to be paying someone, I guess what I'm trying to say is sometimes even hiring a mentor is not a bad way to do it. But definitely find someone that has done it, that that can help you walk through this process, that you can kind of lean on. And so I think that's incredibly important and absolutely key.
Yep.
Would you mind telling us or sharing with us one of your, the most incredibly difficult experiences that you've walked through, and what you learned from that? Do you feel like that strengthened you, or?
So I remember when I was applying to undergrad, my parents really didn't know how to support me in that process because they didn't go to school in the country. And so I was kind of on my own there. And so I applied to a bunch of schools, and this is on the East Coast because that's where we're living. And I didn't get into the schools that I wanted. And, I went to the school that I got into and I was fine, but I was a little bit like dissatisfied and disappointed with my experience and the fact that I couldn't get into those undergrad schools. Fast forward, I guess, let's see, 2 years. After undergrad, I didn't really know what to do for a little while. And then once I found my calling, which was public health, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this differently this time. Because I had like a little bit of a traumatic experience applying to undergrad. I was very determined to get into the schools that I really wanted to get into, right? And so I took on volunteering so that I could have volunteering in that field under my belt. I studied for the standardized test like crazy because I didn't know to study for that test back in, undergrad. And I made sure I had my letters of rec, all the, checked all the boxes, and ended up getting into like a handful of like Ivy League schools, and ended up going to the school that I really wanted to go, which is Cal. And so that it was just so rewarding. And so, I don't know, it was something that I wanted to overcome based on my first experience. And I felt like I had sort of like beaten the system in the second round, and I had a second chance to kind of like prove that I could do it, and I did it. So that was one of those hurdles that I feel like I overcame.
Yeah, and not to label your first attempt as a failure, but maybe not a smashing success. But if you hadn't went through that experience, the disappointing experience the first time around, would you have learned the tips, tricks, tactics, and understood that you have to plan to win on your second time around?
Exactly. And that's what it was. It was really like understanding the process, understanding who I needed to talk to get support, and then making sure that all those pieces are solid and really planned out. So yeah, it was definitely a good learning for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's great. And everybody's wired differently, right? And so it's always a good idea to get outside, like outside assistance. So, the school counselor or a coach or a friend. And this is some of the things we can really learn from other people's successes and their mistakes, right? Because if maybe you just had one conversation with one individual, it could have helped you get into the school the first time around that you wanted to. However, the way that it ended up working out sounded like it worked perfectly. And, I think that, there's that old saying, that which doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? So it's just like character building. It's kind of how I look at life. It's a big character building exercise, right? So
yeah, and I feel like that
very cool.
Reliance on people around you and your network and people that know more than you, and it just becomes so much more important as you get older. And even as I'm going through, like, since I've started going down the hospitality path, I've been actively seeking out people that are just like feel comfortable with different types of activities or, like, I guess, skills within that industry, so that I can pick their brain and really understand like how I should think about analyzing deals and what are the levers that I can pull right in this deal that I'm analyzing. So, and I can't tell you how much I've learned already just by analyzing a deal, right? And understanding all the different pieces that go into it from all the people that I've spoken to. So it's been just like, even the process of learning, right, alone is just so phenomenal that it's been really rewarding so far.
Yeah, that's it makes perfect sense to me, man. It's kind of like if if we're groping around, if we're in this like huge building, for example, and we're in the dark, and our friend a couple rooms over has a flashlight, then it's probably a good idea to make a connection with that individual with the flashlight. And I think also, networking really helps us become more and more self-aware, because as you're spending time with somebody who has skills in hospitality, for example, and I'm trying to learn those skills, I need to be really cognizant of this person's, and appreciative of their time. How can I bring value and, make sure I'm not rubbing them the wrong way, so on and so forth. And so nurture that relationship. So people skills, they say, is like one of the most valuable skills, if not the most valuable skill you can have in life. And it really becomes apparent as you start to try to learn like a new real estate asset class, right? And typically real estate investors are so generous and like happy to spend time with you and teach you what they know, so
Totally.
And there's a lot of them out there.
Agree.
So we're
totally agree with that. I've been so shocked to see how many people are so gracious with their time to spend with a newbie. So yeah, I've been really grateful for that.
Yeah, me as well. All right. I love it. Now, let me just shift the conversation a little bit and ask you this fun question. If you were to go back in time, knowing what you know now to age 18, what would you do to, sort of fast track success?
That's a great question. So I think the thing that comes to mind most prominently is I used to be an A student. Like I used to focus on grades, and like grades were my top priority back in the day, right? Like, ever since I can remember, right? Whether it be grade school, high school, like undergrad, that was my top priority. And what I would say is that you need to strike a balance between the work and, like we were just talking about, the people, right? I wish I had spent more time on the networking, the people, like building those relationships, right? And obviously still doing well in academic activities, but really just building a bigger network when I was younger. That's what I would do differently.
That's really, really great advice. There's that saying, your net worth is your network, or vice versa. And, the other saying, Jim Rohn, you're the sum total of the 5 people you hang out with. And it's probably some of the best advice any 18-year-old could get. And really, if they take it to heart, who knows how far they can go, because really, especially in the U.S., but I think in multiple countries, really the sky's the limit. And
yeah,
that's great. I love it.
The other piece of advice, and this is something that I want to do with my kids, is teach them things that schools don't teach, right? Like the business aspect of life, right? And finances, and how you can build wealth. And yeah, you may not need this day job because now you've built up enough passive income. Like that's what I didn't learn until maybe a couple years ago, that I really started like really honing in on and saying, I want to focus more on that wealth building passive income piece, so that I can be more, have more time freedom and then build wealth for generations. That's, I think, I wish I had been more educated on that when I was much younger. It's still, there's no better time to learn about this stuff than the present. But I do wish I had that type of education decades ago, for sure.
Yeah, sort of a, rich dad, poor dad experience where you start to, understand assets and liabilities. And so I hear you 1,000%. It's a big deal. Let me ask you this, Marta. What are your thoughts on mindset and how to go from a non-success or a scarcity mindset to a success or abundance mindset?
Oh, I'm completely sold on coaching. I mean, it took me again, kind of like with the, the education, the non-traditional education around finance. It took me a while to get to a place where I realized that I needed to get a coach to help me take things that I wanted to take to the next level, right? So I 100% am behind like people having a coach on a consistent basis to help them get to the next level, because at the end of the day, you probably have the skills that you need to do something, right? But the thing that prohibits you from advancing is the way you think about things, right? And for me, I have to get over like different, fears around taking risk. I'm a very risk averse person. I'm a very analytical person. So I like to have 100% of the information when a lot of times you don't have that, right? And so there's certain things that I know I need to work on that sort of prohibit me from like reaching my full potential. And I think that having a coach is one of the ways in which you can kind of take things to the next level. So
yeah, I agree wholeheartedly, because I also agree with like it's our self-limiting beliefs that hold us back, our resistance to success. And sometimes we're just not aware of it. And even if we are aware of it, we could have a really tough time with overcoming that if we're not real intentional. We don't have somebody in our corner that can, even sometimes. So I have a coach now, and I will say things to him. And I'm like, because I'll try to be guarded, right? Sometimes, like with the coaching conversation. And I even noticed that I said that, and he repeats it to me, and I'm like, man, you're right. Like,
that
this
reflection
is like
is real.
Small.
Yeah, that reflection is so critical.
It is.
Because sometimes you're not even aware of the way you frame things, and it's important for someone to reflect that back to you to say, hey, this is how you're framing things. Can you frame things a little bit differently?
Yes. Yeah. No, that's great. I love it. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, it's so true. And let me ask you this, Marta. If there was a key that, unlocked or helped to unlock success in your life, what would you say that key is?
I would say it's persistence coupled with I would say persistence, not giving up. And then also, like going back to that awareness, like being aware of and real with yourself about what you need to work on, right? Because again, it's at the end of the day, it's not what you know. It's really like, what are those things, like those self-limiting beliefs that are stopping you from getting to some place, right? That you truly want to be. And so just awareness, persistence, and those are critical in my mind.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 1,000%, because persistence. So like if we're working towards a goal and we're giving ourselves an out, then it's almost like don't even start. So where are you starting from? If you're committed and you're just going to persist, right? Then, you're going to get to where you want to go, so
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I absolutely agree. And I think you were sort of touching on this also, where it just reminded me of something that Anthony Robbins said, where he says, knowledge is not power. Knowledge is potential power. Knowledge put into action is power. So it's like a lot of, I think maybe it's just an entrepreneurial thing or real estate investor thing or just a human thing across the board, where we get like sort of in research mode, which can turn into analysis paralysis. And 10 years later, like we didn't pull the trigger. So it's better to pull the trigger early on, like 10 years ago, right? And make a bunch of mistakes and learn along the way, but don't quit, right? So This is like just a really, really good conversation. I'm loving it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Let me ask you this. So we're getting close to wrapping it up. Would you mind sharing with us one book recommendation, or it could be as many books as you want that you love, you learned something awesome from, and even one tech recommendation? Could be an app or...
Oh my gosh. Book recommendation. I would say something I'm reading right now, which actually was recommended by folks at the last Jason Drees event in October, is Lifestyle Investor. So I've been really getting into that book. It's really good, and I think it helps you to kind of build a strategy around how to build passive income. So I highly recommend it. And then
This sounds like a great book.
Yeah,
I've not read it.
For sure. They also have a podcast, but I haven't really listened to the podcast just yet. But I'm sure it's just as good. Technology, and are you looking for like specific, anything in particular?
No. I mean, anything that you appreciate technologically, an app or a website, I mean, I like cryptocurrency, so Coinbase is a fun one for that. Or
I don't know. I try to
probably shouldn't admit that right now, I guess.
So something that I'm actually quite addicted to is, and I don't know if everyone would have access to something like this, is our local library system has an app for renting books, and it's the easiest thing ever. Right? Like, you don't have to go to the library to rent a book. So every book that I want, pretty much every book, I would say 95% of the books that, folks recommend to me and that I look up on the Hoopla app for the library system is on there. And I'm like, wow, this is so awesome.
Okay.
So I can either, listen
and we're talking like audiobooks or physical books as well?
It's audiobooks or ebooks, so you can either read them on your phone or you can listen to them as you're doing stuff. But yeah, you don't have to go out and buy books. You can just rent it, and it's right on your phone. So it's been like a little bit of a game changer for me, because I can just look something up in minutes or seconds and then just rent it and start reading it or listening. And I've been on this goal to read at least one book every month, and I think I'm keeping up with it. So yeah.
I like that. So it's called Hoopla, huh?
Hoopla. And I don't know if every library system has it up and running, but definitely you want to check it out and ask to see if they have it, because it's really a game changer. Because when was the last time that you actually went to the library?
Right, exactly. What's funny is my wife just brought the kids to the library yesterday, and it had been, I don't know, maybe a year or so. So, but but even if I was to go physically, I'm really, more of an audiobook kind of guy. So I need to look into that for sure. Because if it's in my area, I probably could just cancel my Audible subscription right away. Right. Great. I love it. Let me ask you this, Marta. How can our audience support you? Is there a particular type of deal that you're looking for or anything, they can send your way? And how can they connect with you if they're, want to, get to know Marta?
Yeah. Well, first of all, please listen to my episodes around hospitality and women in business. So that's for starters.
Yes.
2, deals I'm looking at. So now I'm going to really buckle down and start kind of branching out, looking for other hotel motel deals. Right now in California, about 2 hours sort of in that away from Oakland in either direction, just so I can get to it easily. So that's what I'm looking for. People can get in touch with me. You can reach out to me via email or check me out on LinkedIn. My email is Marta, Marta.Cieslak, Cieslak 27 @gmail.com.
All right. Okay. Well, that's great. And thank you so much, Marta, again, for joining us on the show today. Really, really appreciate you. Appreciate your time. And it was great. We got to hang out a little bit in person back in October at the Jason Drees event. And I'm just so excited for your show and, all of the awesome people that you're bringing on. And it's definitely a show that you don't want to miss, ladies and gentlemen. And so with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I'm going to ask you, Marta, to sign us out, please.
All right. Thanks, Doug. Really appreciate being on. Signing off.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of The Gentle Art of Crushing It. It was an amazing episode. We know we sure learned a lot, and we hope you did as well. We want to take a second and thank you so much for viewing or listening to this episode. And please just know that we only ask for one favor, and that is to make this life magnificent. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.